Hello, my name is Kyle Kim from W Coding. I am one of the two co-founders and CEO of W Coding. W Coding has been a company in Korea for the past 4.5 to 5 years already. We are currently running a global coding bootcamp in Korea, but not only that, we are very active in the startup development scene as well. And also, we are starting a little startup incubating agency as well. So in other words, we train people to program. We help startups to realize their ideas. And also, we invest a little bit in smaller startups like us as well in their very, very first steps. So why I chose to go into business instead of employment. It's not a very easy road. Of course, I was employed in other companies, small and large, for the very first 5 to 7 years after I graduated college. I was working in an entertainment company before, where I helped produce short films and also manage celebrities and talents and everything, which was a very, very interesting experience for me actually. After that, I also worked in an education startup where I was the content creator for English language education services. So basically we made 3-minute clips and we kind of made that small clip on YouTube into educational content, giving students interesting vocabulary and related grammars and etc. So that was I had a glimpse of the startup life back then. This was already about 10 years ago. And after that, I also spent a good 4 or 5 years in the English test prep industry. I was also a team leader and an instructor in a large TOEFL and TOEIC and TESOL and all those test prep English language academies, which paid me pretty well, but I always had kind of a little place in my mind or in my heart, always like telling me, oh, Kyle, you want to do something more than this. Of course, being an English teacher or working in entertainment is fabulous by itself. However, I kind of wanted to make something of myself. And, everybody lives only once and, I wanted to make even the smallest or a large change by myself or with the help of my co-workers or my partners and etc. So yeah, and then with time, an old friend of mine that I met back in college, already 20 years ago from now, happened to kind of come to Korea all of a sudden after spending about 20 years in the States as a software consultant, which was a kind of a calling for me as well, and then kind of in Korean like fate or 운명 in Korean. Because I had no IT background in my profession or in my education. However, I did kind of have confidence at least, and the network at that point at least, to start a business by myself. And my partner, who is my current partner right now, Alex O, he was the IT guy. He was the IT guy, and he was a software development person that I didn't know I need, but that kind of came across my path of life. And he also was in a time where he wanted to start something by himself in Korea, and him not living in Korea for the past 40, 30 years back then, also was kind of thinking needed, I guess, a Korean or a person that knows Korea very well who's willing to kind of walk that path with him. Yeah, and now if I think back into my 5 years of short or long experience in the startup scene, of course there were points where they were very difficult, because of funding or employment or recruiting or development or schedules, or you name it. However, overall all those decisions were made with me and my my partner and our coworkers. So they're kind of it's like a small essay or a small story that we're making by ourselves, which is very interesting to me, because it's a story that's written by me and my partner and my coworkers all together. So in my experience, how does business in Korea differ from business in other countries? I may not be the perfect person to answer this question, but I do have an idea of how at least the startup scene is like in Korea and in other countries. For example, in Korea, we want to kind of promote ourselves as a country as very international, cosmopolitan, metropolitan, and et cetera, et cetera. However, a lot of the people who are involved in the Korean business and the startup scene are still very Korean, meaning it's not like New York or London or Hong Kong or Shanghai, where basically most people who are in business or startup, they speak English fluently. In Korea, around like 90 to 95% of people, especially like, as the age gets older, don't speak a lot of English. It's changing a lot. I mean, even with me being around like, my late 30s right now, a lot of the CEOs that interact with me at my age are, very, very proficient and fluent in English. However, even like older people, a little bit older people like in their 50s or 60s, they don't speak a lot of English, and they're very, very kind of Korean mentality. So kind of the culture is one thing that is a little bit different, can be a hurdle or can be an obstacle as an entrepreneur that you need to think about when thinking of starting a company in Korea. And another thing is it goes into a little bit of technicality, but also the visa situation is not very lenient or towards like international people getting hired in Korea. I mean, all the countries have similar kind of restrictions or constraints in terms of visa, so I'm not trying to complain about the Korean visa system at all. However, it can always be a little bit more lenient towards newer recruits, because right now they only allow like kind of international people, non-Korean people, to work permanently under a so-called specialist visa, where obviously a master's degree or a bachelor's degree is kind of a necessity in terms of paperwork in order for any company to hire any non-Korean citizens. And obviously, even if you had like 6 years of experience or 3 years of experience, which may be more than a master's degree or a bachelor's degree, it's harder, not impossible, but harder to kind of prove the validity of the person wanting to work in a Korean company in Korea, and the company to grant that person a visa. So that's another kind of hurdle for a company that's in the startup scene, but also in the international startup scene in Korea. So maybe the language hurdle and the visa hurdle are kind of a difficult obstacle that people who are wanting to or thinking of start up a company in Korea should think about. It exists in any other culture. Like, for example, especially, W Coding is in IT, and Korean IT companies prefer to use, for example, like Java or like C, etc. In most of their languages, and are pretty conservative about the languages, and are kind of refrain themselves from global change or the global standard of working, which is also okay. I mean, like in all cultures, such kind of rigidness exists. So that's something that obviously one should think about when wanting to kind of start up a company in any other culture besides their own. So I guess, I mean, and the other stuff such as recruiting or funding or whatnot is basically similar in other countries as well. People have difficulty getting funding from other investors, and people have difficulty hiring people, and people also have difficulty, promoting their products. So that kind of hurdles are kind of universal, I guess. What are the most profitable businesses in Korea at the moment? Well, in Korea, At least, I mean, I'm sure there's a similar kind of system in all other countries, because in Korea there are the government, there's the government, of course, and the government has specific guidelines for all industries to follow. And what that guideline means is that they want to shift Korea or a country in a direction. And the three keywords for at least 2011, in the IT field at least, was DNA, which is data, network, and AI. So hence, a lot of the government funding and a lot of the government kind of works, projects, were geared towards that. So hence, a lot of startups and SMEs who are getting money from the government, they geared their products or their services or their projected services towards that data, network, and AI. You know, as it is the same in all industries and in all countries, you know, obviously like a good 80 to 90% of those challenges will fail, and about 10 to 20% at most, they will succeed. But that's obviously a risk that any community or any industry would have to kind of endure. But you know, those were the three industries that were kind of trendy, I guess, this year. But not only that, I guess smart agriculture is was quite a key word, and of course, like as it is the same in any other IT sector, NFT, bitcoins, and trading and everything. Those kinds, you know, multiverse. Those were all kind of the big buzzwords that are still out there. However, I just want to make clear that you know, obviously these buzzwords, you know, some come and go, and some stay for a little bit longer. However, you know, so it is important to kind of ride the tide. However, like whatever the item or whatever your project or whatever the current business model may be, you know, having a trustworthy team with you that kind of knows the fundamentals of the IT field and does not give up in any kind of hardships is, I think, the most important when kind of running a company, I guess, or at least a startup. How to boost your career by learning programming. So, as I kind of said, I respect all other industries. I mean, you know, I was in various industries before I came into IT, and IT is one of the many industries that can be or cannot, that, you know, may not be fun for everybody. However, as everybody agrees, you know, everybody spends more time on their computers or their smartphones. Hence, you know, obviously, I don't think there's anybody who can deny that the IT industry will, you know, grow for the foreseeable future. Hence, there's more money going around, so it's not a bad industry to be in right now or any foreseeable future in the couple decades, I think. So hence, you know, a lot of the people that I encounter, at least in my bootcamp or in my software development company, W Coding, is, you know, they want to kind of, you know, they have the urge or they want to take on the challenge to pivot their careers and pivot their life into IT, which you know, is an interesting field in their perspective as well. So they come to our school, and even me, I pivoted from the English education industry and the startup industry or the entertainment industry to IT. So, you know, they all can do it. And after running about 5 years of a boot camp and a software development company in Korea, you know, we have a lot of global people coming into our door. We have many people who are living in Korea, Korean people coming into our door. We also have a lot of people from abroad coming to Korea or joining us online to take our courses and to be in the ecosystem, to be in the W Coding ecosystem, where they can not only learn how to like program like JavaScript and Java and like Python and whatnot, but of course what's more important than, you know, learning skills is obviously kind of like really, you know, putting yourself in the ecosystem of the IT industry and getting to know the people and, like, you know, meeting like recruiters and like meeting other senior developers or meeting other startup CEOs, so you can basically, you know, send the message out that you are here and, you know, you are wanting to kind of, you know, go this path of IT. But not because not because I'm in IT. Just by statistics, for example, even our last batch students, they didn't have a lot of difficulty getting a junior level or a developer job in Korea. Some spoke some English, some Korean, some didn't speak too much Korean. However, it is a demand where the demand is higher than the supply in Korea, at least, and I'm sure it's the same in other countries as well. So they all pretty much got good jobs at the end that they wanted, and at least a good foot in the door and a good first step into pivoting their careers, which I'm very, very proud of, actually. But after taking that first step, I think, and I'm sure my partner Alex kind of will explain this in his video as well, but as a programmer, to take that, not only the first step, but also the second step and the third step, and kind of not only boost, but upgrade your career. And also, most of the people watching this video will be kind of non-CS related graduates from college, or they don't have any CS, formal CS education at all. What you have to think about is you have to kind of keep in mind that being a developer should be about wanting to and keep on learning, because obviously all the languages that we talked about and a lot of the texts and all of the stacks and everything, they kind of change every half a decade or 3 years and etc. So even though you may be the highest expert in a language, it doesn't mean that you'll be on top of your game basically forever and ever. So kind of having the mentality of keeping on learning and curiosity about new stacks or new things or new industries, that's always a good idea. And lastly, as it is in all other industries or just general life, being a good team player and being a person that who is productive and who is positive and who is a good team worker is always taken highly. Because basically, you may be the rock star scientist or rock star developer, but if you fail to work good in a team in a harmony, who would want to work with you? And basically, that's not a good sign. So being a good person, and of course, as karma goes, if you have a good image, if you left a good image to a person, you never know when that might come back. Even me, I met my co-founder Alex 10 years ago, drinking beer and playing PlayStation and everything. But I must have left some kind of good, a positive image on him for him to propose hey, do you want to do this thing together? So I guess generally being a good person and being a good team player, I think is a good idea in life and in career, and not only in IT but in everything. Yeah, so to give you a smaller, little bit of introduction about how to get more involved in the Korean IT ecosystem and W coding. We have various outlets. I'm not trying to sell a class to you or something like that. However, we are also a co-management team of a group of programmers called Code Seoul on the meetup.com or Meetup app. Which is a very, very good community of developers and IT and startup people. There is another outlet that we have called Seoul Startups, which is another kind of interesting group that you can have an idea about programming or IT startups in Korea. Also, of course, if you are more interested in getting to know about W coding and pivoting your career, or if you're especially if you're really serious about changing your career in a short amount of time, of course W coding can provide that perfect service for you in terms of learning new skills in education, in programming. But not only that, we obviously have a good network of startup founders and programmers and designers and marketers and business people and entrepreneurs in our very, very close circle. So, you know, we're a very good kind of a platform that anyone who's interested in IT or startups, especially in Korea, could, you know, conveniently and freely knock onto. We have open house days every kind of quarter and stuff. So yeah, feel free to visit our website, wcoding.com, or go onto our Facebook page, wcoding at Facebook, or Instagram, wcoding at Instagram, or our YouTube channel, wcoding at YouTube. Yeah, and I really, really hope, you know, nothing's too far away. All it needs is just a message saying, hi, Kyle, you know, can I hop in, can I jump in, or can I drop by for coffee? It's like, sure, of course. You know, I'm always happy to help other people and, you know, help people change their lives.